What we have here is a technical camera typically used for architectural pictures, and those are in general analog devices. But in the back I have what we call a digital back, and that makes this camera in essence a hybrid camera, analog and mechanical. So there is no light metering, there is no automatic focusing, everything is done manual. Although in the back in the camera we have the digital back from phase 1, and this is actually a mid-format digital back, and it allows you to take really large format pictures. As you can see, that back is fully automatic, and you can select ISOs, you can go to different menu options and so on. So let's have a closer look on the technical camera to begin with. Here we have the back side of the analog camera, and the surface that you see right here, that is actually the sensor size that we have on the digital back. Now typically you would use these cameras with film. So if you look closely to the back, you can actually see where the diaphragm is. Right now we're looking right into the camera from the back, and as you can see I can change the diaphragm by moving the aperture. Now the thing about a technical camera is that you can actually move the plane. So if I turn the knob in the front, you can actually see that the lens is moving completely vertical up and down compared to the actual capture area on the film or actually on the digital back. Not only can I move the lens up and down, I can also move the back plane left and right, and this gives me all the possibilities that you might want to have for taking a picture of a building, because often you have to tilt the camera because you can't get the entire building onto the picture, and then you have perspective deformation. In this case you can adjust all of it. So let's have a look in the front of the camera. What are the controls to move around the lens and the back plane? And the vertical and horizontal control knobs are right here on the side of the camera, allowing me to move the lens up or down or the backplane left to right. And you have an indication on a vernier on how far you moved that backplane left or right, or the lens up or down. And this is really a nice feature because this allows you to take multiple shots, so you can work in a quadrant of 9 partitions basically, and then stitch all this together in Photoshop, and you get a huge picture which is already quite accurate in terms of perspective, because that's why these cameras are built for. As this is a manual camera, you will have to adjust the aperture, you need to adjust the shutter time manual, and you need to adjust the distance or the focus, all manual. So nothing is automatic. It takes a bit of time for anybody to take a good picture with this camera. You might have noticed that we have a little cable on the side here. This is actually the trigger. So I need first of all to arm the diaphragm. So I will need to arm the diaphragm first. And now whenever I'm ready I can pull the trigger, and then the camera shutter will do its work, and then we can trigger it. Now I know this is very old school. On the bottom we have the lever to put the shutter up, and this is a mechanical shutter which we then can release, and for every shot we'll have to rearm the shutter. And we also have a small connector here which is a DC closure. It's a contact which will close, and typically use it for a flash, but in this case I'm going to use it to activate my backplane or my digital back. And then finally you're probably going to ask the question, yeah, but how do you now focus? Well, a switch here that allows me to open up the diaphragm. If I want to focus with this camera, then I need to open up the diaphragm, and then I get a projection on my backplane or my digital back, and I can actually see and then adjust the ring for the distance. Now remember I mentioned a few minutes ago that we can adjust the diaphragm. Well, here it is. I can open it and I can close it. So That's the beauty about this. So right now I'm going way down to 1.4. And again, you will have to do a light measurement whenever you use this camera, both for ISO but also for aperture and shutter time, because you will have to adjust all this manually right here on all these different settings on this camera. And this is the digital back from phase 1. And right here we have the sensor, and you can see the size of that sensor. It is really, really big, and that allows us to make really great pictures. Now this is the IQ40, so the sensor provides 40 megapixels. It is not a hell of a lot today anymore, but it's more than enough, because remember, I can do this 9 times, so that is a very serious picture at the end with the technical camera to form one big picture. Of course, the picture has to be static, it has to be a building or something like this, it cannot be moving objects, that's a given. On the top of the technical camera we have a viewer, and depending on the lens we're going to put up, you can put a mask or a template inside the viewer, so you see exactly through the viewer what the lens is seeing. So that is a very handy system. Now in terms of lens, we've got a very specific lens mounted here, and I think this is a 85 XL, but the interesting part is, guess what? We can actually change the lens out. I can open that up and I can take the lens off, and I can put another lens back on. So that is, I think, very, very neat. The camera also has level glasses in all kind of directions, so it makes it very easy to take a picture in the absolute level position, because that's what you're going to need to make a proper architectural picture of a building or a painting or something like that. So you can adjust the distance, and of course it's all manual. We can adjust the shutter time, and it's limited, as you can see. 1/500th of a second is about the fastest it can go. And we can adjust, basically in the back, we can adjust the diaphragm by moving this pointer over, as you can see. And in photography, we talk about landscape pictures, but sometimes we want to rotate that in the other direction and make a portrait picture. Now typically we do that by flipping the camera around, not with this camera. This is another hidden feature of this camera. You can actually move the back plane around in any direction you want to have it. So right now we would be making portraits. If I turn it back, and I could leave it halfway for some artistic impressions, I don't know, I have never tried it, but we can just turn it back to landscape and then lock it again. So let us now install the digital back, and that just plugs on. Now you will have to find an adapter for this, and that's it, the back is now on. Now with the digital back installed, there is little we can do at this moment in time, because we have to wake up the back and we have to trigger it so it knows when to capture the picture. Those digital backs are CCDs, and they are sensitive to heat. So what happens after a while is the sensor heats up, you get noise, and then your picture is spoiled. That is why these digital backs actually need a wake-up signal to turn on that CCD. So we need to find a way to do this, and then we need to capture the picture. And therefore we have a special port on the side where we can plug in a special cable for that, which is a 2-trigger cable. I have a little push button right here that will allow me to push once, wake up the back, and then the second connector is going to the front of the lens where we have that contact, and that is the signal for the back to capture the picture. So here we have that connector, and all we need to do is to plug that in. So we're going to take a picture of that little plant here, and I just have an ordinary light here, nothing special. I'm not going to adjust the white balance or anything, but I want to be able to focus onto that plant. So I will have to go to the menu, and I can do a live view. And this is the live view. So the live view will allow me to see and position the camera properly and actually to get a sharp picture. But before I can do so, I need to open up the lens. So first we'll open up the lens so we get a proper shot. There we go. Now the lens is open and you can already see what we have. I can now adjust the position by turning the knob, so moving the lens up or down or left and right. And now I could actually kind of take a shot, but I want to make sure that I have a sharp picture, so I can actually zoom in whatever way I need to zoom in and then see how sharp the picture is. Here we go. So once we are happy with this, we can now take actually a shot. So I'm going to close the diaphragm. I'm going to arm the shutter. I want to get out of the live view because that's no longer necessary. The shot, I'm going to wake up the back and trigger. And now we should have a picture. You can see we actually have a picture already. Is it perfect? No, not yet, because we are still adjusting it. But I just wanted to show you on how you could actually now shoot proper pictures. The focus is still not right. I need to adjust this, and the white balance isn't right either. And that is the way you can work with an analog camera and a digital back. I do like the hybrid approach because it's kind of fun to work like this. This is a picture that I took this afternoon, and I used two pictures. I did not move the camera vertical, but only horizontal. So from position 0, I shifted the backplane to position 10 and I took a second shot. Then I went to Photoshop and I stitched them together as a panorama view. And this went without any problems, without any corrections. Because of this setting off the camera, everything matches up perfectly. And this is something you cannot do with a handheld camera or a DSLR. That is practically impossible. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Thank you for viewing, and bye bye.